Hello, and welcome back again, to Doomed, a solo playthrough through Arkham Horror the card game with a focus on roleplay and storytelling. And to this, return to Where Doom Awaits. Sort of a self-referential kind of title thing that I'm doing here today. This is the 7th episode in Zoey Samaras' progression through Return to the Dunwich Legacy. It's a very exciting one, I think. We're going to see how everything culminates today, or hopefully not, but we'll get to that in a moment. As always, if you want to jump straight into the action and don't need any of this preamble, just jump right down to the comment section. There's a timestamp there. After having attempted to recover some of Dr. Armitage's friends and then the Necronomicon, which was destroyed, Zoey Samaras has made her way to Dunwich Village outside of Arkham, where she managed to prevent most of the sacrifices. Rest in peace, Earl Sawyer, we hardly knew ye. That a cult was attempting to undertake for a creature of great power known as Yog-Sothoth. Then Zoey, along with her new friend, Brother Xavier, from the village of Dunwich, took upon themselves the gargantuan task of destroying the beasts assaulting the village and the countryside. They managed to put down 2 of them, using a strange Latin phrase, the powder of Ibn Ghazi, and some other tricks. Unfortunately, the other creatures proved too powerful for her. She lost Brother Xavier in the battle, and she's retreated to Zebulon Whately's house. Today, on Return to Where Doom Awaits, things are coming to a head here in the village. Zoey Samaras, along with hopefully Zebulon Whately or somebody else, will have to confront Seth Bishop and confront all of the strange happenings that have led her to this moment. This is the culmination of everything she's been working towards here, just outside of Dunwich Village. I'll mention that we spent a little bit of experience. I'll mention that some of the things that happened in the last scenario did affect the outcome of this scenario, which I'll talk us through when we get in there. But I think enough waiting around. Let's see how Zoey Samaras is able to meet her fate today on Return to Where Doom Awaits in Return to the Dunwich Legacy. Let's get doomed. Scenario 6, Where Doom Awaits. You awaken to the sound of screeching. Fearing the worst, you grab your equipment, blades and the like, and head out into the streets of Dunwich. As soon as you step outside, you sense a foulness in the cold night air, an awful, pungent smell that can scarcely be described, and a heaviness to the atmosphere that makes it difficult to breathe. The citizens of Dunwich have sealed their doors, and the town feels quiet and lonesome. In the distance, a faint glow emanates from a hilltop above the village. You know of this hill from both your interactions with Zebulon and Armitage's records. It is called Sentinel Hill. The tales speak of satanic rites being performed there, rites in which great ritual pyres light up the night sky while the ground rumbles furiously below. I wonder what could be going on up there. Flocks of whippoorwills perch on the rooftops of the village around you, watching ominously as you climb inside Zebulon's old and beat-up truck. I can only imagine. So he's just like, she's like giving him all the evil eyes. She's like, I'm coming for you. I got your number. As you drive towards Sentinel Hill, more screeching fills the sky with an awful pitch that is painful to your ears. Everything you have read about and experienced in Dunwich has led to this. If the foul ritual Seth seeks to perform has anything to do with what Armitage and his colleagues prevented several months back, it involves the favor of an ancient creature, Yog-Sothoth. Failing to stop this ritual may spell doom, D-O-O-M, not only for Dunwich, but for the entire world. Check the campaign log. If Naomi has the investigators back, I don't know who that is. Naomi is somehow related to the O'Banion gang, so based on your performance at the Clover Club Lounge, she might have your back here. Zoey, of course, even if she did, might not accept the help, so there's that. Otherwise, skip to setup. I'll just mention here in setup, we have our map, we have several copies of Diverging Path and Altered Path chosen at random, we've added a -5 to the bag, yuck! And we're using version 3 of Act 2, because we did not restore Silas Bishop, and the Necronomicon was not, stolen from us, it's destroyed. For each brood of Yog-Sothoth that escaped into the wild, add a doom to Agenda A. Absolutely infuriating. That's 3 doom already. And this is actually the worst thing. It says, check the campaign log. If the investigators put Silas Bishop out of his misery, Remnants of the creature's body have mutated and grown at Sentinel Hill. Put one conglomeration of spheres from the Hideous Abominations encounter set into play at the path. Shuffle the rest of that set into the encounter deck. This would be the reason you might not choose to fight Silas Bishop, the horrid abomination from Blood on the Altar. You might choose to try to restore him or something else. We are starting down here at base of the hill. The long slope of Sentinel Hill rises before you, cresting in the jagged edges of Sentinel Peak. Base of the hill leads up to Ascending Path, but the path leading farther up the hill is masked. You cannot move into it. We have to find a way. And then to get to Sentinel Peak, we have to spend 2 clues. At Ascending Path, here's this conglomeration of spheres, which is a hunter, which is horrible because it steals your melee cards, and Zoe's all about fighting with them choppy things. We will read our agenda and our act, and then we're ready. Agenda 1A, calling forth the old ones. As you approach Sentinel Hill, you hear ancient Latin rites bellowed across the night. The time for action has come. If you cannot stop the sorcerers in Dunwich, who knows what terrors they might unleash upon the world. 12 doom, we start at 3. So it's a 9 doom threshold. Act 1A, the path to the hill. A vibrant arcane energy fills the air with a bone-rattling chill. The energy swirls along the crushed trail before you and seeps down several other paths before disappearing. When the investigators have collected the requisite number of clues, they must immediately spend them. It's 2 clues. All right, and we're ready to draw our opening hand. Let's get doomed. Okay. That's a weakness. We don't want that. So, interesting, Brother Xavier. A flashlight and a weapon. All of these are fantastic. The problem is the weapons aren't very useful against the conglomeration of spheres, not the conglomeration, some sort of corporate entity. Desperate Search is useful. It's on right away, but I think if we're going to keep this many assets, we probably want some sort of way of paying for all of them. So I'm going to toss my weapons back against my better judgment. We're going to draw 3 more. Vicious Blow, a Say Your Prayers. That's also a weakness, so it redraws into Drawn to the Flame. All right, Zoe. Let's have a look at base of the hill. Zoe hopped out of Zebulon's truck. He raced away into the darkness, shouting something about, I'm getting reinforcements. This is a 4-shroud, 3-clue location. It's connected to each copy of Diverging Path. There's none in play yet. After you discover 1 or more clues from the base of the hill, you have to put that many set-aside Diverging Paths into play. But I can resign from here. As we know from the setup, if we don't stop Seth Bishop and the other sorcerers at the peak, something awful might happen. So we need to try. I don't like our chances because we have a great, horrible beast bearing down upon us. First action. It's interesting. Zoe, as soon as the truck fades off into the darkness, Zoe is alone here at the base of the hill. She can't seem to find her way up. It's masked at this point. And then further up the hill, there's some sort of arcane barrier that's guarding the summit. Sitting here in the darkness, she doesn't really know where to go, spies the darkest, thickest part of the woods, and begins to set off there. However, before getting there, who should emerge from the darkness but Brother Xavier? He costs 5. It's a lot of money, but we make money, so we're okay. Brother Xavier, pure of spirit. Zoe locks eyes with Brother Xavier, thinking maybe she's seen a ghost. This man was eaten by one of those broods, wasn't he? A silent message passes between them. They don't need to speak it out loud. They both know what they've seen. They've been to the other side. And it is not the heaven, the hell, the limbo, the purgatory that's been described to them by their faith. It was another place. Brother Xavier merely nods. And he says that he is ready to do what must be done. Zoe is drawn to the flame. Zoe wants to know more. She realizes that this... one action to play Brother Xavier here, and another play Drawn to the Flame. She knows that this might spell her doom, but she has to get to the summit if she can. We're going to draw the top card of the encounter deck, and then we're going to get 2 clues, put 2 locations into play. What is this? Is it need for knowledge? It's need for knowledge! She does have a need for knowledge. If you have no clues, it gains surge. Okay, well. Her need for knowledge redraws her into something even worse. A thrall! The thrall spawns here. Most clues. Boop. It's actually not great, is it? A malevolence has overtaken their minds, turning them into soulless puppets. Zoey thought that she and Brother Xavier were alone, but it turns out they were not. The sorcerers have overtaken the mind and the body of one of the villagers here and set it to guard the base of the hill. It shambles out of the darkness, moaning and reaching out towards them. They prepare to fight it. We do discover 2 clues, which have to be spent right away to put 2 paths into play, which I will do, one on either side of us, like this. Now, what I wanted to do, of course, was leave, so that the conglomeration of spheres couldn't hit us. However, I mean, it's not the worst. If I use a vicious blow, we could probably try to kill it right away, which would prevent us from taking additional damage in horror, so I think so. Brother Xavier aims his weapon at the beast that's shambling towards them, but Zoey just grunts. Some sort of animalistic rage comes into her eyes, and she races towards the creature. She's aiming to tackle it to the ground. So we're going to use this vicious blow. It gives us an extra combat, so we're fighting at a 5 versus a 2. First token pull of the game. What do we got? It's an Elder Sign! Oh, I didn't need the vicious blow. That's fine. It's fine. Huge overkill. Zoey's soul is filled with a pure, cold rage. As she knocks the beast onto the ground, it thrashes, and she slams its head into a rock over and over and over until it lies still. But she does it again and again. The thrall is dead, so that's a lucky first pull and a lucky first turn here. The thrall that shambled out of the darkness is dead, but slithering out of the trees now, it's that same abomination from the Clover Club Lounge. Zoey can't believe her eyes. It doesn't make any sense. This is a totally different setting. It feels unreal as the tentacles slither out and start to wrap their limbs, start to wrap around Brother Xavier's legs. It does a damage and a horror when it moves into our location. We also gain a resource for it becoming engaged with us. I'm going to put those on Brother Xavier, because Brother Xavier eventually is going to go off like a time bomb, baby. I'm also hoping to draw into some horror healing at some point. That's the enemy phase. In the upkeep phase, we'll get our little actions back here, and we'll draw a card and gain a resource. It's evidence. That's okay. If we drag this guy into another location, we might end up being able to play evidence for a clue, which seems pretty good here. Zoey and Brother Xavier haven't even moved into the forest, and they've already been assaulted by beasts from beyond their own reality. 4 doom out of 12. Let's draw an encounter card. Come on, something I can deal with here. Boom! Visions of Future Past. Test, willpower 5. For each point you fail by, discard the top card of your deck. Do I care? Do I have stuff in my deck that I want? I think so. Do I really need to succeed by, like, a bunch? I feel pretty good about... I want to heal some horror, so... The creature slithering out of the forest brings Zoey right back to that horrible sinking sensation she had in the Clover Club Lounge. These creatures that don't seem to belong on this plane of existence, let alone this planet, has caused her already somewhat fractured mind to continue to split open. She sees visions of herself as a child. She sees visions of herself on the train, in the Clover Club Lounge, in the museum, in Dunwich Village, and then in the future, flying through the sky, an old woman, a young woman, but in the future. She doesn't know how to make sense of these, so she begins to say her Hail Marys. Say your prayers! Commit to a skill test only if you have 3 or fewer remaining sanity. So I have 5 willpower, 4 from me, 1 from Brother Xavier, 4 from saying your prayers. They're both shouting Hail Marys into the darkness. Let's test. We're testing 9. Elder Sign! Wow. Zoey, I am feeling good today. The prayers pay off. Nothing happens with Visions of Future Past. Great. We're back to the investigation phase. If we drag this conglomeration of spheres, if we move, and the conglomeration is with us, it gets to do a damage, it gets to hurt us. However, I don't really have a way of accelerating damage against it other than fighting it. I want to play evidence on a location with clues, but we're going to end up taking a bunch of damage from it, so I think it's just for the sake of moving forward here, we're going to play a little on the edge of things here, and guess we'll just have to see how that goes down. Zoey is going to race off into the woods with Brother Xavier hot in pursuit, and the conglomeration of spheres slithering out. It slashes at his leg as they move. We take an attack of opportunity. I'm putting it all on Brother Xavier as the beast comes with us. We're going to move into this diverging path. A path off the beaten trail leads deeper into the woods surrounding Sentinel Hill. For Shroud, 1 clue. After you reveal Eerie Glade, discard the top 2 cards of your deck for each action you have remaining. There are no sounds here. No leaves rustle, no birds chirp, and not even the wind can be heard. Somehow the pure silence of this region is unnerving to Zoey beyond anything that she's encountered so far here in Dunwich. We have to discard the top 4 cards of our deck, which kind of sucks, but at least I didn't lose any from the visions. That's a meat cleaver, that's a flashlight, that's a machete, and that's a liquid courage. Things just falling out of her pockets. Zoey realizes she left everything in the truck. She left her drink in the truck, she left her weapons in the truck, she left her extra flashlight in the truck. The silence of this glade is causing her to begin to shake with fear. It does have a clue, though, so when I defeat this beast, I mean, hopefully I will defeat this beast soon, it'll give us the clue here. So, let's fight. We're fighting the conglomeration of spheres. I have 4 fight. It has 1 combat. Let's do it. Just going to check the scenario card, see if there's anything bad happening here. Nope, we're good. We're just fighting. I'm a 4. That's a -5. Fail. Doesn't have retaliate. So Zoey and Brother Xavier start to chop away and punch and kick at this beast, but it resists all forms of damage here. The second attack is a success. That's 1 damage. It's gonna take forever. Oh my god. In the enemy phase, this beast is with us. It's gonna do a damage in horror. I could use that to kill Brother Xavier. When he's defeated, I can deal 2 damage to the enemy. I want to do that at some point. I'm wondering if I want to keep him around for 1 more turn for the extra willpower, just in case. If I do, I'm taking damage and horror on myself, which is terrible. I can't guarantee I'll be able to beat this thing, so... also, what if I draw a card that causes me to discard other things? Yeah, you know what? We're gonna do it. The conglomeration of spheres, as they punch and kick at it, it starts to consume Brother Xavier. He manages to squeeze a shot off on his 9mm, which bursts part of the creature's head, you could call it. Brother Xavier disappears. Zoey almost wonders, was he even here at all? We're still engaged with this creature. During upkeep, we draw a card and gain a resource. It's the other meat cleaver. Okay, so she feels the reassuring weight of the meat cleaver in her hand. I mean, she can't use it against the beast, unfortunately. Mythos phase, we go to 5 out of 12 Doom, and we're going to draw an encounter card. Rights Howled. Look at that. Wow. Screaming down from the mountaintop is an unearthly howl. It could be a human. The words and the sound seems to carry power somehow. Revelation. Discard the top 3 cards of each investigator's deck. Each investigator at an altered location. We're not, so we're not going to do the second part, but top 3 cards. We're going to lose our whole deck. Zebulon Waitley. Ah, we lose a weakness, though. That's okay, that's good, right? Before Zoey sees and gets that feeling of going beyond the veil, I'm hoping to just loop my deck. I'm hoping to just get through my deck so fast that we can loop it before we die from it. Okay. We're back to the investigation phase where we are going to punch this guy like there's no tomorrow. I'm going to spend 2 resources for my Kenai to bring me to a 5. Zoey is now fighting. She's redoubling her efforts. I guess she thinks that if she destroys this creature, you know, brutally enough by tearing its limbs off, perhaps Brother Xavier will return to her. 5 versus 1. Damage. Second attack. Skull, which is a -1. That's another damage. Third. Oh! God, how did I know? The horrible part of this, of course, I just want to say I'm really enjoying Doomed as a series, and stay tuned to Doomed because we're going to be doing some standalone scenarios and a whole new campaign after this, which is great because I can learn from this one. Mechanically speaking, if I've learned anything from this campaign, it's that I really love the choices I made in building the deck for Zoey, but some of the choices I've made were less than optimal. Specifically, melee weapons only is terrible against a conglomeration of spheres. It's just the worst. No damage acceleration, just horrible. All right, Tentacle. On the last pull. This is an automatic fail. So in the enemy phase, the conglomeration of spheres whips out again and slashes Zoey across the face. It seems to be growing ever closer to her. So we're now at 2 sanity remaining, but 7 health. Maybe I can heal some sanity. Excellent. I've had worse. We have had worse. That is true. I wish I had seen that a bit sooner, but what are you gonna do? Mythos phase, we go to 6 out of 12 Doom. We gotta get moving! Draw an encounter card. Need for knowledge. If you have no clues, it gains Surge. We've seen a few of these. Oh, there's gonna be enemies in this deck, and that's just the worst. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm calling it now. This is essentially the end of Zoey. She looks on in horror as the thing in front of her begins to split in the center, and a new blob falls off of it and begins to grow its own limbs. There's now 2 spheres with her in this area. She stands, she's frozen in fear as she watches them slide towards her. That is so bad. Plus side, we've got a few things we can do, which is, eventually. Okay. Okay, I'm spending 2 resources to go up to 5 combat against the one of these spheres, and we're going to try to punch them essentially to death here. We're going to... Zoey screams out into the silent glade, her voice echoing around in a horrible parody of the rage that she feels as she sinks her teeth into the pus-filled flesh of this conglomeration of spheres, hoping to tear it limb from limb. We're fighting at a 5 versus a 1. +1. Good. It's dead. I'm going to pay 1 to play evidence. Just as I suspected. Discover a clue at your location after you defeat an enemy. Ripping the beast in half. There's no sign of Brother Xavier, and the other conglomeration is drawing ever closer to her. But Zoey spies some of its tendrils reaching off away from her into the darkness, and she can see the glimmer of torches there. A clue as to where to go next. Second action, though, we have to continue to try to beat this guy into submission. 5 versus 1 damage. Third action, 5 versus 1, -1. That's 2 damage on this conglomeration of spheres. It's just so slow. Trying to beat these things into submission is so slow. In the enemy phase, it's going to rear up. It's going to slither up a tree, and it drops down onto Zoey as she steps back and gives it a good punt in the head. I've had worse. Cancel up to 2 damage and/or horror, so I'll cancel the damage and the horror from this attack and gain that many resources. Money! Zoey can see that this creature might just go on forever, but she also knows that if she's not able to destroy it, she's never going to get anywhere. This is a test of her faith, and she is trying to succeed. Draw a card. It's evidence. That's good. We won't use it right now, but we might need it in the future. In the Mythos phase, my god. 7 out of 12 Doom. Horrible. Draw an encounter card. Lupine Thrall spawns at the farthest location from you. It's coming for me. 4 combat, 3 health. What manner of wolf has that many teeth? A howl again sounds from Sentinel Peak, but this time it is not so human. It is more wolf-like. There's a scream hidden deep within the howling, and Zoey knows it is coming for her. Don't have to deal with it yet, though. Toodoo! Just horrible. Do we have to just punch it 3 more times? Ugh! Yeah, okay. 2 resources to get +1 combat. I'm fighting at a 5 versus a 1. Damage. 5 versus a 1. Damage. 5 versus a 1. Damage. It's 3 damage. I just wish I could, like I know I can't accelerate it, so it is what it is. In the enemy phase, it deals me a damage. In horror, I am now 1 away from being driven insane. Unfortunately, Zoey, this might spell doom for you. Oh, sorry, also during the enemy phase, of course, the Lupine Thrall hunts down to hear the ascending path. In upkeep, we draw a card. It's Amnesia. Choose and discard all but 1 card from your hand. As I consider what the heck I'm supposed to do with this weakness, Zoey sees the creature slithering towards her, and it's almost a sort of case of deja vu as she blinks and shakes her head and realizes she doesn't even know what direction she came from. This horrible amnesia feeling is creeping up on her again. Okay, I'm gonna need the meat cleaver. I need clues, but I need the meat cleaver. What else am I supposed to do? I can't fight the other beast without it, so I'm just gonna ditch everything that isn't the meat cleaver. It sucks. Mythos phase. We go to 8 out of 12 doom as we watch this howling wolf bear down upon us. Visions of future past. Well, I'm not committing anything to this, that's for sure. So I'm testing a 4 versus a 5. 0. I failed by 1. The visions again assault her mind, and she... Dodge. Ugh, what a good card. What a good card I could have had. I could have had that. Thanks a lot, Visions of Futures Past. Zoey watches as her life slips away from her. These visions assault her from all sides, and she can feel her life just ticking away. First action. It's a punch. Yep. 4 versus 1. Fail. Second action is a punch. It's a skull. That's -1. Whew. That's a success. So this other conglomeration of spheres is dead. Third action. Yeah. Third action. We're going to pay all of our money. And Zoey is going to feel the reassuring weight of the meat cleaver in her pocket, now in her hand. She knows she couldn't use it on the creature because if she tried to, it would have destroyed her. Unfortunately, of course, if I use the meat cleaver for extra damage, I die. So I don't really know what I'm supposed to do with that. In the enemy phase, the Lupine Thrall hunts down, and we go into upkeep and hope to draw something useful. Vicious Blow. That actually is about as good as I could have hoped for. I mean, kind of. We go to 9 out of 12 doom. For those of you watching at home, I am rushing through this scenario because I don't think that there's a way I can make it. I didn't build this deck with the campaign in mind. I built it thinking it would make sense from a storytelling and roleplay perspective, and I think it does. It's just Zoey is not cut out for this campaign, I have to be honest with you. In the Mythos phase, we draw an encounter card. It's a Thrall. My god, horrible. Oh, actually, that's not the worst. Okay. Because as this creature shambles out from the darkness and as the howling draws ever closer, Zoey realizes what she must do. First action, attack with the Vicious Blow. If this skill test is successful, it deals +1 damage. Ooh, maybe I'm going to draw an Elder Sign? Can't count on it. We're fighting with the Meat Cleaver. It gives me +2 combat if I have 3 or fewer remaining sanity. I do. She's almost ready to crack. Her eyes are wide, darting around the clearing as she realizes that things are closing in around her on all sides. However, if it defeats an enemy, I'm a heal horror, so I'm going to try to hit it. So I'm fighting at a 7 versus a 2. It's a -5. Let me count that up. I have 4 combat. I have 2 more from the meat cleaver. I have 1 more from the vicious blow. That's 7. -5 is 2. Dead thrall. And it defeated an enemy, so I can heal a horror. Okay. Now, did I gain a resource from... I did not gain a resource from becoming engaged with the thrall, so I will take it now. Now, if I head in and become engaged with the lupine thrall, I can try to hit it once and do a damage to it. Zoey can feel the wolf-like creature bearing down on her. She needs to fight it. She needs to kill it. She's got the meat cleaver. She can chop it up. Problem is the vicious blows are in the bin. 1 dodge is in the bin. There's another dodge somewhere in the deck. It's going to be really useful. And there's nothing really else I can do, so my sanity is essentially my greatest resource. Zoey knows if she leaves this eerie glade, she might just be set upon by the beast. And she can't really afford to be leapt on. She can't really afford to be attacked right now. With her last very focused thought, she realizes one of the best things she can do, she's just going to hunker down here in the middle of the eerie glade and wait. It'll have to attack her, and she'll be able to see it coming. So we have 2 actions left. I'm going to use them to draw. 1, ever vigilant. Okay. 2, Zoey's Cross. Nice. In the enemy phase. Indeed! The lupine thrall runs out of the woods and launches itself at her. It's wolf-like, but it seems to be covered almost in fur. And it has extra long, jagged teeth out of its mouth, something between a cross between an alligator and a wolf. In the upkeep phase, I'm going to draw something else and take a resource. Something worth fighting for. Oh my gosh, this is so good. We have things that I'll be able to play, hopefully. Mythos phase. Mythos phase. 10 out of 12. I've barely made any progress because I've just been chopping things up. I mean, there's not going to be any enemies left after this. Draw a card. It's a thrall. It would appear that Seth Bishop and the sorcerers thought that someone might be coming for them. They've set not just 1, not just 2, they've set many villagers twisted with arcane power to patrol this countryside and this forest. Another thrall stumbles out of the darkness, and I realize that is absolutely it. If we had had the cross out sooner, it would have made a huge difference in fighting these creatures, because they would have been down a health each. Now, unfortunately, if I take any attacks from them, I'm lost. My only hope is that I can chop up one of them, gain some sanity back to survive the hit from the other. That's kind of all I can do here, unfortunately. As a quick kind of rules note, when you're engaged with an enemy, if you do something other than fight, evade, parlay, or resign, you take an attack of opportunity. So you get an attack immediately from the creatures that are engaged with you. What this means is they hit you before you did the action, before you complete the action that you undertake. So, for example, if I wanted to play something worth fighting for, I would pay 3. I would then take attacks of opportunity and die, and then it would come into play. So it can't soak for you until that point. So, unfortunately, I mean, if I could evade, I would love to try evading here. This is why evasion gets a bit of a bad rap, because it doesn't kill enemies for you, but if you can evade a bunch of things and just run, maybe that's all you need sometimes. I'm furious because I think this is the end of the road for Zoey. If I can chop up this thrall twice, I might be in an okay place. I'm spending 2 resources for Kenai, which brings me to a 5. I'm fighting at a 7 with the meat cleaver, and I'm going to attack the thrall. Damage. Second attack, thrall. Damage. Kills the thrall. heals a horror. Again, there's just blood flowing in the clearing now as the lupine thrall howls and charges at her once more. The third thrall had stumbled out of the darkness, and Zoey just hacked away at its neck and chest as it falls over, blood gushing from its wounds. I just don't feel great about this. Last action, we're going to attempt to chop the thrall. I can't take the horror for +1 damage, because then I'll die. So we're just going to fight. I'm a 7, fighting a 4. Tablet, -2. Okay, that's a damage. In the enemy phase, we get hit once more for a damage and a horror. I have 1 sanity remaining and only 4 health remaining as well. Health is, of course, the pool that Zoey doesn't really sort of worry too much about, but at this point, if I manage to get something worth fighting for down, like, I think we're going to be in an okay place, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Upkeep brings me a chronophobia. Yeah. Chronophobia says, at the end of your turn, take a direct horror. Zoey thinks she sees dawn creeping up at the edges of the forest, and she realizes she has been tearing and stamping and chopping and spilling blood in this clearing for what feels like years. It's probably only been hours, but somehow she has managed to spill so much blood, and there are still creatures coming for her. At the end of your turn, take a direct horror. So, we haven't even done mythos phase yet, but basically, if I don't discard chronophobia, I die. If I take a hit, I die. So, essentially, I need an elder sign to deal 2 damage to the thrall, so then I have 2 actions left to chronophobia myself. I actually can see 1 more out here, but it's very unlikely. The mythos phase takes us to 11 out of 12 doom. We draw an encounter card, which is Resurgent Evils. I am not going to place a doom on the current agenda to advance the agenda. I'm going to draw the top 2 cards of the encounter deck because I'm feeling crazy. These evils are indeed resurgent. These beasts continue to swell and rush out of the darkness at her. Let's flip them both and just see what they are. Okay. Spaces between. Ooh! Flip each non-Sentinel Hill location and play to its unrevealed side, removing all clues from it. Each investigator and enemy flipped this way immediately moves to the nearest Sentinel Hill. I assume they stay engaged with me. Shuffle each non-Sentinel Hill location so we don't know which is which. So we all move back to the base of the hill. We shuffle up these paths and we put them in a random order. Now, of course, one of them says discard 2 cards. It gets its clue back, if I'm not mistaken, because it's on its unrevealed side, and when it is revealed, it gains the clues on it. However, this kind of sucks. This feeling of time ticking away isn't helped by the fact that the trees begin to rush around her. Zoey is overcome by this thirst that can't be slaked with water. She just wants to get to the top of the hill. She doesn't even necessarily want to kill Seth Bishop. She just wants to know what's going on. Test book X. X is the number of clues you have. For each point you fail by, take a horror or place a clue on your location. Well, we can't fail. I also don't want to. I want to ever vigilant both of these things down. But I can't take a horror. So, I mean, the other issue here, of course, is that I'm dead anyway. Right? I need to do 2 damage. This would cost me 2 actions. And then I can't discard Chronophobia, so I would die. Oh, no, because it's direct, yeah. I was going to say that, if I put down something worth fighting for, I can't. It's direct horror, so. Well, I'll put down the Ever Vigilant just to increase my intellect to 4. 4 versus 1, -3, nothing. Didn't fail, so we discard. Now, in the investigation phase, here's the thing. If I double action to discard Chronophobia, if Zoey attempts to shake off this feeling of I have no time left on this earth, she actually dies, and I think she knows that. The anxiety of it is overcoming her. I can't play anything, so I need to kill this lupine thrall, and I have no way of getting extra actions. So, if I draw an Elder Sign, I kill it, I heal a horror, I discard chronophobia, and we're still okay. If I don't, that's it. I'm spending 2 resources to go up to 5 fight, 7 with the meat cleaver. I can't even take a horror to deal 2 damage. That's the problem. If I could take a horror to deal 2 damage. In hindsight, part of the game is what cards did you draw? You do your best and you try to draw through your deck so you have the cards that you need when you need them. If I had access to Zoey's Cross or something worth fighting for earlier, this might have been a very different setup. But as it is, I never even got past the base of the hill. I can't do multiple damage with just the meat cleaver. Let's do it. First action, we're going to fight. We're a 7. -1. Okay. So I do a damage. Second action. Oh no, what am I saying? Second action, we're going to fight again. Oh, I've been doing this wrong the whole time. Watch this. I mean, don't actually, because I have a feeling we're going to die anyway, but I'm fighting at a 7. Oh. 7 minus 4 is 3 versus 4, and it has retaliate, so it kills us anyway. What I was thinking, before we resolved the scenario, what I was thinking was, if I kill the beast, I get a sanity back, which means I can survive the chronophobia anyway. Oh, man. But, of course, it has retaliate. It's funny, like, 3 up is typically pretty good. There's -4s, -5s, tentacles in the bag, so it's not great. Before we resolve the scenario, we managed to visit one location, which I figured... Well, I didn't figure. We rearranged them, but I just checked. It was over here. We visited one location. Let's have a quick look, shall we? We drew 13 encounter cards. I'm just going to pull out all the enemies. And I think that's it. Nope. In the 7 or 8 turns of the game so far... In the 8 turns of this game, Zoey pulled a lupine thrall, which was up here at Sentinel Peak and hunted down. It started with a conglomeration of spheres. I drew 3 thralls and another conglomeration of spheres. Zoey and Brother Xavier together did a total of 12, 14, 16, 18 damage, plus 2, 20 damage. If I had not pulled so many enemies, we might have had a bit more breathing room. If we had had different cards at the beginning, we might have been able to put them down. Starting on 3 mental trauma and not starting with like liquid courage or whatever to heal it. I even included, actually speaking of experience here, I included an Elder Sign amulet, something that is again a horror, so never saw it. It's just a question of what you draw and when, especially the Dunwich Legacy here. Forces you to discard cards, so you lose access to things, and it's just a bit of a crapshoot. Let's read our resolution, shall we? If no resolution was reached, go to resolution 2. The sorcerers from Dunwich, seeking arcane power from beyond this realm, have accomplished what Wilbur and Old Whately could not. Through blood sacrifice and indescribable experiments, the dark power the sorcerers sought is now within their reach. However, they will never get the chance to truly wield this power. In beseeching Wilbur's father for knowledge, they have drawn the creature forth from its extra-dimensional realm. Yog-Sothoth emerges from the open rift above Sentinel Hill, blotting out the sky and enveloping the world. Now it has come to Earth, and it rules where humanity once tread. In your campaign log, record that Yog-Sothoth tore apart the barrier between worlds and became one with all reality. Okay, well, maybe we have a chance at the next scenario. Each investigator is driven insane. The investigators lose the campaign. I think there's an image down there on the right. I believe that's something like what Yog-Sothoth might be. A being of pure power and flesh that is larger than the world itself. We're not actually looking at this scenario because we didn't make it. Well, 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 well. Hooray! That was Return to Where Doom Awaits, the dramatic conclusion of Return to the Dunwich Legacy, featuring Zoey Samaras' driven insane body. I know I spent a long time in the scenario kind of discussing this and in different ways, perhaps because I was a little frustrated at how we were drawing and what we were drawing and so on. It's always tough in this campaign. Oftentimes, even if you fail, maybe you take some trauma, maybe you take some negative effects later on, but you progress, you continue. This is not quite the end of the released campaign, but in the book, in the campaign log, if you don't succeed here, that's it for the world. So you don't get to play Lost in Time and Space, which is the last scenario in the campaign. Not that we would have survived that either, mind you, let's be real here. Zoey has many victories under her belt from this campaign, some of which were easy peasy and some of which were seat of her pants. She has a number of losses. Mental trauma was horrible. Choosing only melee weapons in a campaign that features conglomerations of spheres, a bit of a mistake. Drawing 20 health worth of enemies in that last scenario. If I could do it again, I wouldn't draw that many enemies. Yeah, I would choose to not draw that many. It's meant to be challenging. It's meant to test you. And if you're being tested, sometimes you fail. Zoey Samaras began this campaign with an unshakable iron will. She wanted to help her friend, Dr. Henry Armitage, recover his friends. As she kept pulling back layers and layers of the story, it turns out that they were being kidnapped for sacrifice to Yog-Sothoth by this cult here in Dunwich Village. She uncovered their plans, but she was unable to stop them. If Henry Armitage had reached out to her and others sooner, perhaps they would have been able to do something about it. Perhaps they could have acted more decisively. Instead, Yog-Sothoth has merged with all reality, and everyone's been driven insane. This concludes Return to the Dunwich Legacy, featuring Zoey Samaras, here on Doomed. I did have a great time. I know I'm kind of complaining about, like, oh, deck building choices, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. I'm really happy with how it's gone in terms of the excitement factor. If you've made it this far into the series, Doomed, first of all, thank you so much. It's really great to know that there's people out there watching and enjoying this content. I know I'm enjoying making it, so thank you very much. I would like to point out as well, the next things that will be happening on Doomed before we move into the next campaign, Return to the Path to Carcosa, probably my favorite campaign, with a new investigator, a new feel, a new story. Before we do that, we're going to be looking at some standalone scenarios. What's a standalone scenario? I'll explain it more when we get there, but in brief, you can take your investigator from a campaign through a side mission, get some bonuses and some stuff, and then come back, or you can play them separately. If you play them separately, you get a chance to build your deck with experience already. So, the next couple of things you'll see on this channel in this series Doomed will be investigators will be taking on standalone scenarios all by their lonesome. I can't wait. If you have any thoughts, feelings, comments, suggestions, don't hesitate to leave them in the chat below. I cannot wait to see you all here for some more of this Doomed. I mean, we lived up to our namesake today, which I think is important to do from time to time, just to make sure that I'm not, cheating at Doomed. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you all again. Watch out for Yog-Sothoth.